Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at a deck that has a name that I'm very fond of. It's a name that I gave it. And if anybody else calls it anything else, we're not going to be friends. You see, the deck involves Arcanine and Ninetales, and as far as I'm concerned, it must be called Arcanine-Tales. Still amuses me. Right, Arcanine and Ninetales then. Is it any good? How good is it? I think it is pretty good, if I'm honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. And I do think it's another fun fire deck. And we know that fire decks have a huge amount of help, right? But that doesn't mean that this isn't a fun card. Now, it is actually built around the Arcanine that came around in VMAX Rising. So it's not out here yet, but it will be in a not too distant future. You see, it's got 130 HP, but if it's got a Burning Scarf attached to it, it goes up to 230 HP. 230 HP is very, very high. Bearing in mind, we're talking single prize Pokemon here, right? So even after your opponent takes out Arcanine, you're still only giving up one prize, and they've got to do 230 damage to do so. Though I should at this stage mention that Burning Scarf, if it's attached to a Pokemon and that Pokemon is damaged by your opponent's attack, you burn them. And then they take 2 damage counters between turns and have to flip ahead, and if they don't flip ahead, they remain burned. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's kind of useful. Now, as for the attack, the attack is fine, alright? Free energy, 130, yeah, fine, no one really cares, okay? It's fine, it's a generic, ordinary attack. We're not excited about the attack, but we don't need to be excited about the attack. Because the attack here is really just, look, you're burned, you can't KO me, so I'm not under pressure to do these giant amazing attacks. 130 a turn, plus the damage you're getting from burn. And bearing in mind, right, you do 130. Well, if they've hit you, they've already taken 20. So your 130 goes up to 150. Then after their turn, it goes up to 170. And at 170 for free energy is fine. It's not great, but it's fine. And they're really struggling to KO you, and this all adds up pretty nicely, pretty quickly. But we play Ninetales as well here, and this is a Ninetales that nobody was getting particularly excited about. And yet, it's popped up in a winning deck. You see, it is the Ninetales again that came around in VMAX Rising. 1 fire energy. If your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by a special condition, you do 120 damage. The 30 damage base is not particularly good. The 120 for a single energy, yes, that is actually really quite good. And this is how you do this. You've got your Arcanine there, which is giant and not giving up prizes, doing a decent amount of damage. Ninetales then comes in as a weaker, only 120 HP, gonna get KO'd, but doing 120 for a single energy kind of Pokemon. Plus, of course, whatever damage they're taking from the burn. You max out and play a full 4 Burning Scarves, and then all of a sudden this deck works. Plus, the reason we play Ninetales is so we're not mucking around having to try and recover Arcanine. We play 4 Arcanine, and we only use 4 Arcanine. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon that we play at the same time here. They're a little bit bigger. We've got Torkoal V. Torkoal V is popping up in a lot of decks at the moment. Torkoal V, I mean, free energy, 90 damage, discard the top card of your deck if it's a fire, 180. And we're not playing any great ways to manipulate that, but it's still kind of fun. And then we've got 4 energy, 120, discard 2 energy attached to the defending Pokemon. There are times in games where if you can drop this, use this attack, get rid of 2 energy on your opponent's defending Pokemon, they basically lose the game. Because they just don't have enough energy, you knock out their main Pokemon and it's kind of all over. And then we got Reshiram and Charizard. And I know Reshiram and Charizard isn't new and it's not exciting, and I get all of this. But it's still a really gosh darn good Pokemon. It's got Outrage, so if they hit you, you hit them for 30 damage plus however much is on you. Or 4 energy, 230. Plus we got a GX attack here, and there's no other GX in the deck, so you might as well use it. Free energy, 200. 6 energy, 300 goes to any effects on the defending Pokemon. And this is one of the few decks where you're actually going to use the free energy 200 version of this attack. I mean, look, free energy, 200 damage as a GX attack, not impressive. But it's a welder and an energy attachment for the turn, and if you've got no other GX attack to use, then we're not looking for some amazing, brilliant, game-breaking, phenomenal GX attack. This will do, and it's still more damage than you're doing with your other Pokemon, so you know what? I'll allow it. Now, in terms of trainer cards here, we've mentioned Burning Scarf, that's very important, but we've also got Weller Volcano Park. That's not the first deck we've talked about this in recently. Burning Scarf kind of helps with that. But basically it says that a Pokemon who is burned and flips heads between turns remains burned. You don't get rid of burn just because you flipped the heads, which means that burn damage is going to continue to accumulate as the game wears on. That's very useful. And it's things like this that make the slightly low damage output turn into a slightly acceptable damage output. Now we've got Fire Crystal to get your fire energy back from the discard. We also play Giant Hearth to get your energy out of the deck. Weller Volcano Park if they're burned, Giant Hearth if you need the energy, and Heat Factory Prism Star, discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. 3 different fire stadiums because they're all good in different ways. We've also got Fiery Flint that searches out energy from your deck, discard 2 cards from your hand, search for 4 fire energy, and of course we've got the aforementioned Welder, attach 2 fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. Lots of fire tricks. Now, because Burning Scarf is particularly important in this deck, we play Adventure Bag so we can search them out. 4 Burning Scarf, 2 Adventure Bag might seem over the top, but we need them. In terms of Pokemon search, we've got Quick Ball to grab some basics, we've got Evolution Incense to grab some Evolution Pokemon, and we're actually playing Great Ball here. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, find a Pokemon, put it into your hand. It's not guaranteed Pokemon search, it's not phenomenal, it's not always going to get what you want, but it's good Pokemon search. We're going to play it. Now, we do play a couple of Pokegear 3.0 here to try and find a supporter we want at the right time, and I've already mentioned Welder, and outside of that, we're playing Cynthia, the best shuffle draw supporter we've got. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 6 cards, and Professor's Research, the best pure draw we've got. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. It's a good trio of cards, if I'm honest with you. No other real tricks, it's just what you need. We also have a couple of Switch, just to get yourself out the active, because you might want a different Pokemon in the active. And to be fair, right, this is a deck where you will be switching around your active Pokemon a fair bit. So it is fairly important that we've got Switch in here so that you can bring up your Torkoal or Reshiram and Charizard for your big attacks. You can get your Ninetales in the active when your opponent's active is burned, so you can do the extra damage, etc, etc. Arcanine Ninetales is not a deck that I was particularly expecting to come and start rocking the format. I didn't think it was a particularly... Well, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even really on my radar at all. It's just there. But actually, Arcanine's a really good attacker, and I figured Arcanine could be quite good. And if Arcanine's quite good, and we're playing a bunch of stuff with Arcanine, why would we not then also want to play Ninetales that does pretty good damage for a single energy? And that's kind of where we end up here. That's why this ends up being a good Pokemon, a good deck. I like it. It's really kind of good. So there. It's a fun deck. It's a good deck. It's a single prize deck. And let's be clear, right? If you're playing a 130 HP Pokemon that goes up to 230 HP, but still only gives up 1 prize, it is going to be extremely difficult for your opponent to actually knock out enough Pokemon to win the game. Then you're doing decent damage plus burn, but the burn isn't going away because of Weller Volcano Park, and you're forcing your opponent to hold off on little attacks because it's not worth doing a little attack if you're going to get burned, and all of a sudden, you end up winning. I don't know. This is not a deck that was on my radar, but it's definitely a deck that I'm going to be playing around with. It's one that I think's got a pretty good chance. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.